So here's the Blue Destiny Unit 1 exam. It's obviously from the high grade Universal Century line. It's a 2017 kit, so it's relatively new. It's technically based off of the ground type Gundam and ground type GM. It's actually more of a GM than a Gundam, but technically you can say it's a GM with a Gundam face. Um, However, that's it. This happens to be the blue the Bandai Spirits version of the kit, so that means it doesn't have the barcode, the price tag on the barcode, which really sucks. And also, you may notice it says Mobile Suit Gundam side story and the Blue Destiny. Technically, this is actually a suit from the video game and the manga. So technically, it's like two versions of the kit in one kit box, which I do want to talk a little bit more about that later. But we can still look at some of the blurbs on it and some of its actions that it can do, and of course, its weapons and stuff. But there is another blurb over here about it. This one's actually translated in English right here. So if you want to pause the video and give that a go, you can go ahead and do that. And then I think that's it for the box, really. There's really not much to talk about other than that. So let's move on. So I know I haven't shown the manuals I didn't show the manual in the second one, but for this one I do have an actual purpose to showing it. You see, when I was building this, I was a little inebriated and I wasn't fully aware of what I was looking at, and I didn't realize that it was saying that there's a game version and manga version head in the box. Now, I thought that you basically got enough parts to make one and that was it. And that's technically not the case. You have all the parts to make two, but you have to choose which one you want to put on the kit. And I didn't notice that, but I also didn't notice that I was doing something wrong. I put the faceplate of the game version onto the manga head. So technically the faceplate that's on the kit is not the right one. But it's really hard to tell because everything else that's on it is the manga version, including the eye stickers. So it's not really a big deal. I just want to point that out because you might have a hard time figuring that out if you're new or if you're inebriated like I was. So just pay attention to what it's actually telling you, and that's about it really for the manual. I just wanted to make sure you knew that there's both versions of the suit are in this kit. So here he is, the Blue Destiny Unit 1 exam. Um, he's actually quite a good build, honestly. He's pretty similar to the ground type Gundam when it comes to build. It's a little different, but overall it's pretty similar. I mean, he is based off of it, so it's not like it's too much of a surprise that it's similar. Um, Also, you probably noticed that he's got like other stickers on him and stuff. And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, all my other kits I've shown have only had foil stickers, which are like the cheapest stickers that you can get with Gundam kits. But what you're seeing on here are basically decals. They're meant to add more detail to the kit. Some people are better at putting it on than I am. Most of mine are a little crooked, but I usually do a pretty okay job. But regardless, it's actually a pretty simple build, and that's pretty par for the course for GM style kits. They're not usually too hard to build. But as you can tell, I do have the manga style head on it because I think that I think it looks cooler. And for me, it's just a better looking head than the game version, which I have actually down below near his feet, which you can go ahead and look at right now. Now, keep in mind that the faceplate that he has on this head is actually the one that should be on this head. So, yeah, I messed that up a little bit, but I'm not going to go back and fix it because, I hate tearing apart Gundam pieces because they're not really meant to be pulled apart once you've put them together. You can take them apart, but they're not meant to be removed once they've already been put on. So yeah, it can cause some damage to the pieces, and you don't want to go down that route. It'd just be tedious to have to fix it. He's got a lot of surface detail compared to say the Goof, so there's a lot more chances of panel lining here. He does have a lot more foil stickers in the Goof, though, which for some people could be kind of a downside. The focus, the triangles on the back, the triangle on the chest, and the knees, I believe, the kneecaps, are all foil stickers, including the cameras on the head and the eyes behind the red visor. Unfortunately, that's all foil stickers. And there's actually a couple more on there that I didn't even use. Um, and also the foil sticker up here on the antenna with this white piece that's not a plastic part, that's actually a sticker, which is why if you look at it, it kind of looks like crap because I did a horrible job putting it on. But like I said, I was inebriated. Um, and the articulation in him is actually pretty good. But then again, the ground type Gundam also has a pretty good articulation. This is a part of the newer style of high grades that have a lot more articulation and detail to them. So while older kits will have a lot less articulation and a lot less detail, the newer high grades tend to have better articulation and more um, detailing to the kit. So just keep that in mind. Uh, the articulation of him is not nothing unique really. So any other high grade will have the same type of articulation he does. Um, the only articulation on him that I guess you could say is pretty unique is that I believe it's these things right here is where his beam sabers are, and you can like pull that off or pull it out and then take the beam saber out. But it's real tedious. And honestly, if you don't really plan to ever use the beam saber, I don't think you should worry about that. Um, so that's really it, really, honestly, when it comes to his articulation. He does have a couple extra things that move so that when he goes into exam mode, you're supposed to like pull those out, or in some cases like these right here, swap them out. So these are technically extra, these are accessories that you use for exam mode, but I don't like these sticking out the way they want you to put them out on the backpack. So I'm not going to worry about that. I really don't think it's a big deal, honestly. I don't really care for the way it looks. So I'm not going to put those on there. And the other accessories, as you can tell, is the optional head. That clear green piece is supposed to be in the head, but I was just too lazy to put it in there. And really, the only accessories he has besides optional parts are the beam saber effect parts, which if you're not using the beam sabers, you're not going to be using them, and an optional holding hand for the left side of his body. I have the expressive open hand right there, but that's really it. That's the only other optional part you have, or accessory. Um, which is actually kind of funny because it makes me wonder what they were thinking. And the reason why I say this is because they only give you three hand pieces, or three hand parts that are the back of the hand. And the reason why I asked that is because of these right here. These are optional hand parts that you can use. And it's like, what was the point? What was the point of putting 3 extra hands, 2 of which would have been holding hands, another holding hand for the left and a holding hand for the right, so an extra pair of holding hands, and then another expressive open palmed left hand? What's the point? I think it's because these were leftovers from the ground type Gundam on the runner. That might have been it. As you can tell, I did a horrible job cleaning up a lot of the nub marks, but like I said, I was inebriated, so I really wasn't thinking about it. Um, I'll go back and do that later. I was going to do it for this video, but I figured this way you can tell which areas may be worse off when it comes to nub marks on the kit. So, hopefully you can look through this and see which areas you think have the worst nub marks. But yeah, why have a bunch of extra hands that don't have backs? Because then you can't use them. Like, you could technically use this one if you wanted, but you can't use these at all because they can't hold anything. The only way for these hands to hold something is if they have a back, like that right there, a back of a hand. But they don't. So you can't use them. Unless you have spare back of hands laying around somewhere. You could use for another kit that has lost its hand. You could use it for a replacement, I guess. But other than that, there's really nothing you can do with these. I don't understand why it was so necessary to leave these on the runner. It's just kind of excess plastic that you pay for, but you don't really need. I don't understand that. I understand it if it was like leftover parts from an older version, but this is just a different variant of the high grade GM ground type. So what was the point of leaving these in there? I don't know. That's just how Bandai works, I guess. Anyways, when it comes to other accessories that he's holding, I forgot to go over this last time with the Goof. I didn't mention he had his shield. The shield's an accessory, obviously. You don't have to use it, but I of course usually do because I love having the shields on my kits. It just looks more badass to me. And of course, his awesome machine gun with actually a blue magazine, which I find to be pretty interesting because usually, I never really noticed it, but it seems like with ground type kits, whatever the color of the suit is the color of the magazine, but with most other kits, it's just a gray magazine, like the same color as the gun. So I don't understand why they do that, but it's pretty cool. And obviously, for those of you who don't know, these pieces on the side right here are actually extra magazines on his side skirts. And you can actually take those off if you wanted and have it to where he's like reloading it. Like he dropped that one and he's reloading it with his other hand. If you wanted to, you could do that. And I do believe this shield has the same mechanism that the ground type Gundam shield does, where you can place it down for like cover. But for him, you don't really need to do that because he doesn't have any huge gun that needs to be like propped up on it. Now his gun does have 2 points of articulation. Actually, this handle on the side right here can actually move. As you can tell, it can move back and forth. That way, you can have it to where he's holding it with his other hand. And this basically shoulder mount right here on the back, the shoulder stock, can fold up and fold down, which I think is pretty cool. And you can have him in any style you want, of course. Like I said, I'm not very good at posing these things. I'm pretty bad at it, honestly. But you can try it out, do different things with it. One of my other favorite features of this is actually the chest Vulcans, because in the ground type GM, he only has one like circular chest Vulcan that's actually something you should probably glue, because on that kit it's a separate plastic part that you just pop on through the front instead of pulling through the back side and putting the plate on top of it. So that's actually a really good design. I prefer this over the normal ground type version of doing that same type of Vulcan look. I mean, actually, it doesn't do the same type. Like I said, it's just one small plastic white part, which we'll actually get to in the future with when I do the review of it. But you know, I really like that design. I think that's really cool. Um, Now, because he's a high grade, he's not going to cost a whole lot. He's not a premium Bandai or anything. So I can't remember really what I paid for him, but I think I paid a little less because I might have got him from the Boneyard. Uh, but I think on average, probably around 20 to 25. It's a pretty safe bet for high grades, honestly. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but I highly doubt any more than maybe 27, 28. Um, so if you want to get another, if you want to get them for yourself, I highly recommend it. Actually, it's a really good kit. It's a good build, and if you want a more unique looking GM that's not a standard issued mass production model, you can get this because it's like one of the few GMs that are like prototypes or and stuff like that. Um, and from what I understand, it's a pretty good story. The side story is. I don't really. I know what the story is, but I haven't experienced it through the game or the manga. So I personally can't tell you if you would enjoy it or not, or if I think it's good. I know basically the cliff notes of it through people who reviewed the story and talked about the characters and stuff. Um, but I really do like this kit, this build. But he is relatively average when it comes to the majority of what he does as a kit. He's what I expect from a high grade, so he's honestly about average. Um, Nothing he does is really too spectacular, and because he's a newer kit, him being as articulated as he is has become standard by now. So, with him being as articulated as he is, and with all the standard, you know, GM ground type pieces he has on him, with the slightly updated ones for the Blue Destiny, overall, I'd say he's probably about a 3.8, around the same as the Goof, maybe a little less, like a 3.7. Because I love the fact that he comes with optional head parts to do the manga version or the game version. Um, but it can be kind of unclear if you're which one you're doing, especially if you're inebriated. But that's not the kid's fault. That's mine. So against that, but I love the fact that you can actually choose which one you want. Like that's something that I think is really cool because I know how Bandai can be, especially with suits that have alternate versions. They'll release, with just look at the unicorn. The high grade unicorn has the destroy mode high grade, and then it has the unicorn mode high grade. So with the high grade version, it doesn't transform, which means you have two separate modes that you can purchase. With this guy, if they really wanted to be greedy, they could have done not only a manga and game version of the standard Blue Destiny, but they could have done a manga and game version of the exam mode, which is very little difference, but it's just enough to where they probably could have done two different modes if they really, really wanted to squeeze people out of as much money as possible. Which, Bandai's definitely been known to do. While I do love them as a company for the things that they do when they're awesome and they're good choices, I also have to, throw some shade their way when it comes to business decisions that they do with their kits sometimes. It's like, why make four different versions of that one kit when you can make one version that can do all that with just optional parts? It makes no sense to me. But you guys can go ahead and leave your opinion on that in the comments if you want. I'd actually be interested in reading that. But yeah, I give him a 3.7 or a 3.8 out of 5. He's a fairly decent kit. And when it comes to recommendation, I would totally recommend him if you want something that stands out a little bit more than a regular GM, but isn't so showstoppy as like a perfect grade or something. He's just a nice extra high grade to have in your collection of Universal Century. If that's, one of your favorite timelines, like it is mine. And of course, I love the overall standard looking basic design of the suit because it's a GM and I love GMs. Um, that's really all I gotta say now, honestly. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.